Thank you so much for being here with me once again on another episode of A Legacy of Love, Un Legado de Amor. And with that said, we have a very special guest. And let me tell you, his story is one of those stories that this world would actually say, that's who he is, but I know and God knows that that's not who he is. Normally, this world tends to label us, but you know what? His life and his story, his journey is one of success, of victory over so much adversity. And I know he's excited to be here. I'm extremely blessed and honored to have him here today with me on my story, on my episode, on my podcast called A Legacy of Love. And with that said, Matt, thank you for being here with me today. I feel so honored to have you. Thank you, Matt Melvin.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's really an honor and a privilege.
Well, it sure is for me. Having you share your own story, your own journey, your own adversities that you went through. And what better place to share it here on this podcast that is to transform, to empower, to help people, to bring light, right? Transformation. And we would love to hear a little bit about you. Of course, what you're doing now, because we know that there's amazing things that are happening right now in your life. I could see it. And share a little bit about yourself.
My name is Matt Melvin. I grew up in Kingsborough, Massachusetts. In 1988, my parents made the unfortunate decision to move to Vermont. To me, it was one of the worst decisions they could have made. Vermont is very isolating, it's hard to meet people. And so, for most of my life, I felt ostracized. Bullied was a constant issue. Even when I was in Kingsborough, I was bullied. I was overweight. Look, and I lost 100 pounds and I never once set foot in a gym. You, I think it's important for all your viewers, if you set a goal, and only 96% of people set goals, and they're the most successful people, you will be successful. Those limiting beliefs, those ifs, or depending upon other people's approval is where we get into trouble. And my story is no different than a lot of people. I had a lot of anger, resentment, hatred that I had not dealt with. I didn't love myself. I had a lot of unforgiveness. And when I stole that car in 2004, I was essentially saying, I'm not going to be bullied anymore. I admit I did it completely the wrong way. If I had dealt with my emotions and properly figured myself out then, we may not even be here today. But I am actually glad that I didn't, because I had a near death experience in August 2015. I was driving on 495 in the middle lane going 72 miles an hour, which is pretty slow for me. I've been known to go 130. When a Lexus SUV came down an embankment, it was headed the opposite direction, down an embankment, crossed in front of my car. And but by the grace of God, I was saved, I was protected. And that's where my life really transformed. I believe God was drawing a line in the sand saying, you're either going to do my will or you're going to do your own will. You're going to go to prison, come out, and it's going to be this revolving door. And I didn't want that for my life. I had been a lukewarm Christian. And you know what the Bible says? I will spit out lukewarmness. You either be hot or cold. And I didn't want to be lukewarm anymore. I was serving myself. And I was miserable, Analee. Miserable.
Matt, I want to emphasize right now. You said something that truly, before actually I was here with you today, it seems like it's happening more than not. The fact of being bullied. Right now that I had a meeting, that topic came a lot, and it's definitely we were talking because my background is in the education field. I've been a teacher in the past for a very long time. And for me, it's always been about the heart, taking care of people, taking care of the neighbor, and of course, of uh, these students that should be loved, should be taken care of, and they're valuable. And being bullied, it's horrible, and it makes you even believe sometimes. I would assume what people think, other students and people around you. What would you tell someone that's actually battling with this right now, that they're being bullied because you've actually faced it yourself? You understand.
I faced it not only in my personal space, but I've also faced it in the work environment. And when a bully takes advantage of another person, that person is really miserable. They're very unhappy, and they certainly don't love themselves. And they use you to try to get something that they're missing. And of course, they're not going to get it. So, my takeaway for your viewers that are listening, if you're being bullied, stand up for yourself. Don't seek outside approval. What other people think of me is none of my business. I will always be disappointed if I look to worldly people for approval. The only person I need to look up to is God. You know what I want to hear at the end? Well done, good and faithful servant. That's all I want to hear from God. Yes, it's important to have friends. Yes, it's important to be vulnerable and open yourself up. But the most important responsibility I have is to fulfill God. And I think I gave you this analogy when we first spoke, but we need to get our life aligned with God. And it's very similar to when you go to the car dealership and you get your car aligned with whatever car manufacturer you drive, whether it's Toyota, Ford, Nissan, doesn't matter. It is 100% obedience. So 90% obedience is 100% disobedience. It's not a negotiation with God. This isn't a contract. It's either God's will 100% and Matt's way 0, or it's disobedience. One sin is equal to 100. God doesn't look at, oh, Matt has one sin and Analee has 10. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. And we also need to be careful about who we surround ourselves with, because if I know another person is engaging in reckless sin, that's a reflection on me.
Most definitely. And I think also that not everyone that says that they're your friends are your true friends. And as we're getting older, we have to be wiser of who comes around us, as you mentioned just a minute ago. We cannot be breaking bread or talking just to whoever, random people that come our path. We have to be very selective. And that also means friends and acquaintances, people that come around us, because they're going to definitely pour things in our thoughts, and we want to be careful with who we are actually talking to. And I'm hoping that whoever listens today, this message, they're finding people that have a lot of similarities with you, that they believe in the same beliefs that you have, your same system beliefs, and also they're trying to continue to grow their path, whether it's their relationship with Christ, whether it's where they're going in life, to have a purpose. Because sometimes you just end up with people that are just here in life just to be here, but they're not following through with your same life expectations of where you're going and where you're at. So, yes, you have to be very careful and very mindful with who you're actually associating yourself with. So, we know that you went through so much. We know, as you're sharing, how when you went through this experience that was like, wow, it just shook you, and it happened all of a sudden. You were not expecting it. And how was it, and when was it that you realized, well, I could have actually passed away there? You know what? This was actually God that was there for me. He gave me a second chance. How did that happen?
Instantaneously, I knew that if God didn't take over that driver's seat, and I was driving, you understand what I'm saying? until I gave up control. And control is an illusion. The only person that's in control is God. We are never in control. And you just look at when you're driving in freezing rain, you're not in you're or snow, you're not in control. I know a lot of people, they like to go fast in bad weather. And guess what? They have four-wheel drive, but they don't have four-wheel stuff.
Yes. That's very true. That's very, very true when you're saying it's just an illusion because it actually is. And a lot of people tend to want to keep that control. But honestly, you're not in control. You actually nailed it. We're not in control. Who's actually in control every step of the way is Christ. And a lot of people are going to say, well, listen, I'm still asleep in Christ. I don't know Christ. I don't really, I don't know. Maybe it was luck that I've made it through. Maybe there's a lot of people that believe in things like that, but you've actually experienced God being there along the way. What would you tell these people that are non-believers, um, that believe it was just a matter of luck, whatever experiences that they've had, they've been able to make it through? What would you tell them? Because we understand that some of the people that are going to listen today are going to say, "Well, I'm still asleep in Christ. I'm halfway there." I'm why? Because maybe they were not blessed to have had a parent, or have had gone to church or known of the Lord, and that's okay. But what I think that is not okay is to still stay there and not actually give yourself that opportunity of really getting to know him, having a true relationship with him. And a relationship means not labeling or trying to find a religion. It's about finding a true relationship with him, because I am not about finding a religion. I'm about finding that relationship with him daily, constantly with him, and saying, Daddy God, I'm broken. But I know that with you, I'm whole. I know that I'm trying, I'm doing my very best to be good every day, to be my best version in you. I know you're the only one that's perfect, but I want to be every day more like you and less like this world. But I know about God. But there's going to be those people that have never been, have not had the opportunity. And that's understandable because we all come from different backgrounds, different stories. What would you tell them?
It's dying to self every single day. It's allowing God to come into my life. There's five prayers. The first one is Thanksgiving. And that's the most important thing. When you're in prison, you forget about the small things, being able to close your door, having the lights to shut off, being able to go to bed when you want, eating when you want, having privacy when you use the restroom. We take those things for granted we're not behind bars. And I think when you see the small things that God does, then you can appreciate it. I know a lot of people go to God with their laundry list of wants, and when God doesn't fulfill them, then they become angry, bitter, resentful. But look, it's all about the work. How much are you praying a day? How much are you reading your Bible? How much are you fellowshipping? How often are you going out and talking to the homeless? What are you doing to fulfill God's kingdom every single day? And if you're just giving them a laundry list and nothing gets answered, doesn't surprise me at all. This is not a grocery store. We don't, or a takeout venue.
It seems like there's a lot of people, and you share it a lot about bitterness, anger, because they're not getting what they want. It sounds to me more like a child that is unhappy. You know, when they do throw their tantrums, that they didn't get their way. But as we're growing, I think that we're supposed to mature and recognize, after you've gone through so much adversity, and whether you've gone through little adversity or gone through, like what you went through, that definitely changed your life, because now you recognize and you're grateful for being able to open your door, go having your meal when you do, because you got to experience the opposite, being behind bars and not having your freedom even to go to the restroom. even to do your own thing, because there was that moment that you just, it was a moment of a second probably that you said, I'm going to do that and I'm just going to do it my way. But it turned out not to be for your blessings, for your own good. And but you learn from it. But then you find those people that continue constantly going back and back to the same problem, to the same, but they've had the opportunity to make the difference. But what would you tell them? They're full of anger, they're full of bitterness. You've already been in that place. You have so much wisdom there because you've been there. And you could have probably ended up going back again, but you learned that it was not the right way. It was not what God had in store for you. He was so amazing for you. He was so great to you that he actually got you out of that. And he said, "No, Matt, this is not the way. This is the way for you." But there's people that continue. Sadly, they continue going back. And well, we all make mistakes, but they continue to be, repeated over and over. What would you tell them? Because they're full of anger, bitterness. How were you able to let go of that? Did you ever feel bitter? Did you ever feel angry?
I did. And until I started forgiving myself first and then forgiving others, and because when we live in unforgiveness, hate, resentment, stress, that is all consuming. And we can't have God and all of that other junk. We need to make a choice. Look, Paul spent a lot of time in prison. What did Paul do when he was in prison? He was laughing, he was chuckling. Do you think the guards were very happy about that? When I was in prison, I was listening to music and jumping up and down, and it drove people crazy. These institutions are made to make people feel downtrodden, miserable, angry, resentful. So guess what? Then they come back.
Instead, you made such a different environment for yourself. And I would assume that if there was other cells close to yours, it also made a big difference because the people that were close to you, that were surrounded by you, maybe you were cheerful that day or you were singing, and they were like, well, what's going on with him? Why is he doing that? Why is he not responding like we are? We're depressed. We're hurting. We're disappointed. We're recognizing that what we did was not the right approach, but now we're paying the consequences and we're not going anywhere and we're upset. And he's happy. We don't understand where his happiness is coming from because he's not going. He's not leaving here. He's not going to go anywhere. So that bitterness, I think that the best way to find healing and transformation is letting go of what actually hurt you. And the best way that you could find it is through Christ. Because sometimes we don't recognize that there is bitterness. Sometimes it's just so hard to go and do the test of kind of analyzing yourself and, hey, am I really upset? Is there something really that's still hurting? But when you ask God to come into your life and you ask Him to heal an area, a part of yourself that you might not even know that's still hurting, that's when the transformation truly happens. In forgiving yourself, it might take, some time because it takes some time. You have to come to a place of okay, well, I couldn't make something better out of it. This is what I thought was the best at the time, and just let it go. Let go. When you let go and you allow new things to come into your life and say, okay, I cannot change my past. But I sure could change what's coming. I sure could change the course of my future. I cannot change what I did, the mistakes. But listen, who has not committed mistakes? Who hasn't committed sin? We're all full of sins. There's only one that didn't commit mistakes and hasn't committed sin. That is God. And as you said, you ended up making, I would say, they give you lemons and you made lemonade in that place where you were sent to. And you made your lemonade and you were still enjoying it while other people were distraught. They were upset. They were depressed. who knows, they were enraged probably because I would assume that there was a lot of people yelling there in the daytime, in the night. It was chaos. I don't know. I've never gone to prison. I've never been visiting one. I don't know what the process is to go and visit someone, but I'm assuming I've only seen movies. That's the closest I could get. But you could actually describe. I'm assuming that it's very close to that. Um,
It is. It's
right?
miserable. It's a miserable experience. You know, you got lights on 24/7, 365. You got a metal door that, the guards can lock you in at any time. I spent most of my time in solitary confinement because the inmates would lie to the guards and tell them I tried to proposition them. And you know what? They were trying to beat me down. But what did I do? I got into my word. I prayed, I fasted, I exercised. And all of those disciplines have helped me become the Christian man I am today. It's all about discipline. We all have the same 24 hours a day. It's all about time management. And look, it all starts from, I always tell people, if you want to know something about somebody, look at the condition of their car. If their car is neat, tidy, clean, that's how they live their life. If their car is got cracked windshield and they got the Christmas lights lit up on the dashboard, I would, and it's messy. I'm not setting foot in that car because that's how they live their life, unorganized, late for everything.
Most definitely. And I think that it makes perfect sense. And I think that if you really want a change to happen in your life, you have to actually set goals. You have to be organized. You have to be ready for all that. And as you said, if you're actually looking into wanting to know how that person lives or how their life is, look at their car, look at their room, look at their space, and you'll be able to know really what's going on around them. Um, and if those changes have happened in your life, it's because you've done and you've poured the hard work. This doesn't happen overnight. And people are going to definitely connect because there's a lot of people that have been to prison and have been out and they've tried to make those changes, but somehow it has not happened. And they go back again to prison, back and forth. That becomes their pattern for a lot of those. And definitely, it's very impressive to see how you made a big change. Kudos on that. I admire that. I respect that of you. That is talks, wow, wonders. It's amazing that you made a big change in your life. And because I like to focus on that, and people need to recognize that, wow, he really made the big difference, the effort, the change that he needed to do where he's at right now. I know a lot of people statistically, if you've done it and you've gone there, I know, even though I've never been to prison, that the tendency is that if you've been to prison, you tend to go back. And
Well, the
you
definition of insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results.
Exactly. But you didn't. But now you are actually the proof that change could happen. And what better way that you that have gone through that to leave a message of encouragement? Because there's a lot of people out there that your story is going to resonate. They're going to say, "Wow, now I want his life. I want to know how he did it. What is the way? What is the recipe or how did he do it? I want to know." So people are going to want to know how to contact you. People are going to want to know what is his last message of encouragement. How did he do it? So how did you do it? Besides that, you've definitely got God presence. He came into your life when you were not expecting it. He just showed up and you knew it was him, but you listened. You definitely listened. What would you tell them?
God gives us two ears and one mouth for a reason. We should be listening more than we are talking. You can find me on Instagram, Bullied Behind Bars, X, Bars Bullied, Facebook, Matthew.Melvin.5621. My website is bulliedbehindbars.com. You can email me, bulliedbehindbars@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. Reach out. I'm happy to help you in any capacity I can. But you have to take the initiative. You have to have the want and desire to change.
That's true. That's true. You're going to have to want to do this. And as he did it, he found his new best version is in Christ, like I did. And that is amazing. Well, give him an opportunity if you don't know Christ. Give him an opportunity. And I know it will be well. And also, and like in my case, I don't know, Matt, I actually also did the extra hard work of going through therapy. I actually went and I sat down and I said, hey, I know in my culture there's a lot of misconfusion there, and it's always been misled, saying that if you go into therapy, there's something mentally wrong with you. You might be crazy. They call them locas. Oh, well, you might be nuts if you're taking a therapy that's not all that well. No, actually, it has nothing to do with that. It's because you want to find um, that moment of understanding of why that happened to you. You want to understand and tie your story, your past of why that started. Because listen, even with the Bible, there's generational curses. We don't know if that actually has even something to do with your grandparents, great, great, great family ancestors. So you want to find the way to connect the dots, go back, and also with a specialist, why not? To try, because it's a lot better when you go with a professional and you sit down and you cry your eyes out and you figure out, well, what happened here? What role did I play? So that's another alternative that you also have. It's another resource that's there, and it's for everyone. And there's
Right.
nothing wrong with you when you do that. It will actually help you also to heal if you've gone through bitterness, anger, rage, who knows how you call it, to let go, to be able to forgive. And forgiving doesn't mean that you're going to continue having a relationship with someone that is not healthy, that is toxic. What it means is that you're letting go. That means that you will keep your distance if they're not healthy. If they continue hurting and hurting and hurting and hurting, well, bless them at a distance. Wish them the very best from your heart, because that's what we do. We have to wish everyone the very best. That doesn't mean that we're going to sit down and we're going to be breaking bread and laughing, because as we know, like we just talked right now, people that are like that and that they love to diminish, belittle people, and they enjoy doing this, and there's relationships that are not well for you and you're aware of it, you're not going to continue feeding it. You're going to actually be aware of it and know that it's not good for you, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. You forgive them, you watch them at a distance, and if someday they're willing to recognize that they have harmed you, that they have done you wrong, it takes two. So things could happen, but it cannot take one, because if that's the case, then it's going to be a relationship of a one street road. That means, it has to be reciprocal. It's just like a street. If it's a street that doesn't have an exit, then it's not going to go well. Just like a relationship, it has to go both ways. People have to sit and talk and dialogue and figure out how could we make this work and understand each other. And I go always by the golden rule. And why? Because that's the best way to treat people the way you would like to be treated, regardless of where you come from, regardless of your background, because that's the way you're going to really, really establish a true relationship with people. When you listen, when you care, when you acknowledge them, when you let them know that they are important, that they're valuable, that they're a child of God, and that this about trying to bully them and make them, that's not right. Would you like to be bullied? So, with that said, I believe that if you have a story related like Matt, if you have a relative that has gone through something like this, reach out to him. I think that he would love to hear from you. He would love maybe to even give you advice if you're still dealing with this, maybe a loved one that is behind, bars, that is dealing with such a difficult time right now, a season. I call it seasons, and I'm hoping it's just a season, that it doesn't become a permanent thing, that they're able to come out of that. And what better a person than Matt that understands this, that knows about this because he's lived it, he's experienced it at a very profound level because he's been there. But it's also a profound level to see where God has taken him to a very beautiful place where he's actually now in a wonderful place. Now he's free, free of all these different things, these labels and whatsoever. So give us a last minute, your last words before we close this episode because, and most of all, thank you for being here with us.
Don't isolate. Don't stuff your emotions. Men, it's okay to cry. If you're a man, find godly men in your life. If you're a woman, find godly women in your life. You can't rely on your spouse for all of your support.
Yes. Yes, I agree. It is always good to have additional support and have those friends. And if you have a spouse, of course, it's good to talk to your spouse. But that's true. If you want to have those friends additional besides your spouse, yes, so you are able to talk to them and let your friend know. But obviously, be very wise who you share your things with, because sometimes um, people tend to share things without not knowing that later these people might not be the right ones, that later they might go off and share your situation, your personal journey. So you have to be very careful with who you share your own experiences. So, with that said, thank you for being here with us once again on another episode of A Legacy of Love. And most of all, thank you so much for this amazing time with my guest today, Matt. I wish him the very, very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.